My name is Mary Ryan and I'm here to speak about some of the issues that employers will have as a result of the current situation we're in. To start with, the employers' health, safety and wellbeing during a health emergency is paramount, and employers need to be proactive to protect their people and minimise risk. Employers have a statutory and contractual duty to care for people's health and safety at work. And therefore we recommend that employers be informed. This is a fast-moving issue and you need to keep up to date with official guidance from government and work with the HR team or with your advisors to understand how best to manage and protect the workforce. Be prepared, carry out a risk assessment, ensure managers and staff are clear on sick leave and pay policies, and know what needs to happen if someone has been exposed or falls ill. It's very important. This includes self-isolation, but also thinking more broadly, looking after children if the school is closed, which is the case currently. Be flexible with the employee. Changing plans, think about that, restricting travel, encouraging people to work remotely and helping people to do that. It could mean also staggering when people are in an office, banning all non-essential travel, training people to have more transferable skills. So it's all about trying to keep the business going as best you can with the employees you've got and just minimising their risk at the same time. Think about who has got transferable skills that maybe they're working in an office now but they could actually go in and serve on tables, etc. In relation to pay and Covid-19, pay arrangements between employers and employees during periods of sick leave are dependent on terms and conditions of the contract of employment, subject to obligations set down by law. Where they are not covered under a contract of employment or attendance policy, there is no statutory entitlement for an employee to be paid in the event that they are absent from work. This is also likely to apply where the employee is unable to attend work as a result of precautionary measures taken in line with HSE or HPSC advice. It's recommended in these circumstances that employers and their employees should engage proactively and work to be as flexible as possible to resolve any issues arising and exploring options such as working from home or other remote working arrangements where feasible and practical, working from an alternative location where feasible and practical, arrangement to work back the hours, days lost, alternative opening days on a day where the business is normally closed, taking of leave to avoid employees' loss of earnings, or where a business is unable to provide work to its employees, they need to send them home, and maybe think about things like other statutory pay. Okay. If none of the options that we talked about just now is available to you, you can arrange for a paid leave from your employer. You can apply for one of the statutory schemes below, which is force majeure leave. This is paid leave. Force majeure leave is where 3 days of emergency leave is given in 1 year and 5 days is given in 3 years. Normally you would have a waiting period for that to get it, but it would be maybe the employer could waive some of these leaves with you. Parental leave, if you're looking after a child up to the age of 12. Parents' leave, if you're caring for a child up to the age of 1 who was born after the 1st of November 2019. So there's other ways that you can maybe get some leave. Your employer may decide to close their business for this period and send you home. This is called a temporary layoff. If your employer cannot pay for this period, you can apply for job seekers benefit or job seekers allowance. There is a form if you go on to the Department of Employment Affairs and Social Protection. They have a form there for you to be able to apply online, because it's going to be very hard for your employees to go into an office because of our self-isolation or our social distancing. The form is called the COVID pandemic unemployment payment. This is an emergency payment and is paid for 6 weeks. The government are also asking for employers to see if they can pay the employee a maximum of €203 a week for 6 weeks. If they are able to do that, the government are saying they will be reimbursing the employer. So if someone's earning less than that, I'd say pay them less than 203 so that you will get your refund from the government. Your employer may also decide to reduce your hours to 3 days or less. This is going on short time, and it's a payment that's called short time work support, which is a form of the job seekers benefit or job seekers allowance. The employer can also put an employee on short time working, which is a more formal procedure and applies to the following situations. Due to a reduction in the amount of work to be done, your weekly pay is less than half your normal weekly pay, or your hours worked are reduced to less than half your normal weekly working hours. So like I said, the government has now urged all employers to support national public health objectives by continuing at a minimum to pay employees who cannot attend work due to COVID-19 illness or self-isolation, and a difference between the enhanced illness benefit rate and their normal pay. Again, this may be achieved through the employer considering a range of flexible working arrangements with their employees, such as compassionate leave, allowing the employees to work remotely, like we mentioned, allowing staff member to work up any time taken at a future date, allowing the employee to avail of annual leave entitlements, or rearranging parental leave. It's worth noting that annual leave does not accrue if the business is shut down due to the unavailability of work. Redundancy as well. Maybe some roles are going to be long-term and not just layoff, but return into redundancy roles. And again, roles in a business may become temporarily redundant, but it can't be last in, first out due to the nature of the work. For example, heavy lifting required to fulfill duties, but admin person is longest serving staff member. How does this work? Well, in a redundancy situation, it has to be the roles that is critical to keep the business operational. So you will consider which roles are critical to the business, and it's not about last in, first out. It's about the critical roles that are needed for the business. So HR basics to follow at a minimum would be: make sure everyone's contact details and emergency contact details are up to date. Make sure all staff are aware of your response as an employer. Continue to communicate as the situation changes. Make sure managers know how to spot symptoms of coronavirus and are clear on any relevant processes. For example, sickness reporting and sick pay and procedures in case someone in the workplace develops the virus. Ensure that all potential incidents are being reported and so that they can understand the overall risk to the business. Ensure there is a designated place for people, maybe with a closable door, should an employee turn up to work and is sick. Keep a distance of 2 meters from them, and if possible, isolate them behind a closed door. Advise the individual to phone their GP, and if this is not possible, call 112 or 999. As an employer, just follow your employee handbook, the policies set down in your employee handbook. Follow your sick leave procedures, follow all your guidelines, and adhere to them as much as possible. This is the document that should be followed, and it's critical that you continue to follow your processes. What if a staff member is being paid to be out anyway? Can they request their annual leave be postponed? I would say you need to be, like we talked about, be flexible. discuss this situation with your employee, and just be as flexible as possible. Do give them the directions, advise them of how to get that form that we spoke about on the Department of Employment Affairs and Social Protection. There's a lot of different forms available on that website, and they all relate to different parts and different issues that could be affecting people due to COVID-19. There's forms for employees and self-employed who have lost employment due to downturn in economic activity. There's workers who are diagnosed with COVID-19. There's a form for workers who are not diagnosed but who are self-isolating. There's forms for workers whose employers do not supplement or top up state illness benefit payment, COVID-19. Form for workers who are requested to stay at home by their employer due to COVID-19. Employees who are laid off temporary or put on short-time working due to COVID-19, and workers who need to take time off work to care for a person affected by COVID-19 coronavirus. The payment, if someone has got coronavirus and are self-isolating, the payment sum is higher than the normal sum. I think it's at $305 rather than $203 a week. So give the employee as much information as you can. If you're able to, because you're not going to be able to get through to offices, and it's going to be hard to get the forms that are available in the local social welfare offices and also at the doctor's offices. But it is available online, and people are being advised to go online and fill in the form online. Normally, I would say ask the employer to call the social welfare department and explain the situation to them as well. And normally I would say have a letter to give the employee should they need a letter to say they have been put on layoff short time due to the coronavirus ID 19. So as much information as you can to help the employee, and keep in touch with the employee, because it's a very vulnerable time for the employee. So keep them informed of what's happening and support them throughout this difficult time. If you are laid off as a result of the coronavirus and the job ends up being made redundant, you will get the notice period as per the redundancy policies and procedures, and that all is dependent on your length of service. So notice period has to be given as per employment law, and you can always pay in lieu of notice. So if an employee is out and doesn't want to come back and the role is made redundant, you might decide to pay in lieu of notice, because they can't come back to work anyway. That covered, Jenny? Yeah.